What is your basic philosophy on how to treat others? Let's maybe overview some. Let's get started. Anna, hi, it's lovely to see you. How are
Hi,
you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Looking forward to our little, what is it, friendly banter?
Friendly banter, friendly
Friendly
banter.
banter.
Absolutely, I'm always looking forward to it. Let's talk today about different, maybe basic philosophies that people may ascribe to on how to treat others. One popular thing that has been taught over the ages is the golden rule: treat others how you would like to be treated. Maybe we can use that as a starting point. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a good starting point, and everybody hears about it. But here I have to throw in a little thing that I notice when I work with people that are not feeling so happy about themselves, that very often they do not treat themselves well. So if we would treat others the way we treat ourselves, we probably treat a lot of people very badly, right? If we treat others how we would like to be treated ourselves, I think a lot of people are not entirely sure how they want to be treated, because I think we just say it as a blah, 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 the golden rule, but we don't think about what it really means, right?
Yeah, so what you're saying is that if I do not even know how I want to be treated, or maybe even worse, I have a very bad self-concept, and I have this maybe even subconscious um, expectation to be treated badly, I kind of turn that around and project that and turn that and externalize it towards others. Yeah, that I can absolutely see how that happens. I think that there might be a very big degree of confusion because, yeah, many people do not know how they would like to be treated, and they have maybe never known really being treated well, not by others and not even by themselves. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Um, the golden rule: treat others how you would like to be treated. So in there is this: how do you like to be treated, right? So there's personal preferences and things like that. I think in my point of view, there's a big caveat in this, is that other people are different from us. And there's this huge assumption in the golden rule that the way that I want to be treated, even if it's being treated in a way that is well in my worldview, this is being treated well. It might not be the case for the person
Exactly.
outside, right? So, but I think that the big caveat here is the assumption that others would be happy if they're being treated in a way that makes me happy. What
Mhm.
do you think of that?
Oh, I'm totally with you there, because it's all based on the me, what I want. So we're forgetting to look at what is this other person? What does this other person need? So yeah, it's totally in a way egoistical, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then, and I think in a way also it makes us feel good about ourselves. Now I'm a good person because I'm doing this that I would like. It's like like between people, people. It's this. You give a gift in the expectation. You do something for somebody else in the expectations that they will do the same thing back, and then you're disappointed because they don't, because they function in a different way.
We
They
function.
might give a return, but in a totally different way. And then we might not see it because we have our uh, goal set on that it should be like this. So it's exactly the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh, yeah, because it's like projecting our own self out there, and just assuming that everybody is the same. And then, yeah, if you have this expectation of reciprocity, that, yeah, they're gonna accept it and be happy about it, and they're gonna give the same thing back to me, you're likely to be sorely disappointed. Okay,
Yes.
I I want to give actually the upgrade to the golden rule is what Dr. Tony Alessandra coins the platinum rule. And the platinum rule says treat others as they would like to be treated. They would like to be treated, which
That's
of course requires a little bit of um, intelligence, and it transcends emotional intelligence. It goes into cultural intelligence, meaning understanding the drivers and values and rituals and behaviors of people that are fundamentally different from you, potentially, right? Not
yeah,
everybody is different from
yeah.
you, but people can be having this open mind of really accepting this person, observing them, trying to understand them, and then giving them what they need, what they might, what you think they might be expecting, and so I thought that that was a beautiful, succinct way of Dr. Tony Alessandra to say that, because truly that is the fundament of a lot of it. We can actually take an example of this. Imagine that you are a team leader in a company, and you have this global international group of really very competent people pulled from everywhere, right? And you are a person who loves to be micromanaged, and then you start micromanaging everybody else because that's what makes you happy, that's how you function, right? It's very, you're down to the nitty gritty, and very direct and very assertive, and maybe you're even authoritative because that's just, and you have an intrinsic respect for authority. You respect people that are authoritarian, so you want to get that respect, so you are authoritative to your underlings at this point, right? How can that backfire?
Oh,
Because
that can so backfire.
right,
That's a guarantee to backfire.
because your common sense, your way of viewing all this does not translate to everybody else in the group, right?
Hmm.
Not necessarily. Of course, believe it or not, how many managers, when they hire people that are exactly like themselves,
Yeah,
right? So in
yeah.
that case, it might be working. But let's say that in general, I think that you're in for a world of hurt, and just people not being able to function under this imposed thing. So I think that might be an illustration of treating people like you would like to be treated actually backfiring big time. Yeah.
I think when I was working with a group, it was a business exchange with Russia, and female entrepreneurs, and this is way back, I think, in 2000 or something. And before going over to Russia, we're a group of women from my area. And before going over to Russia, we had classes or trainings, right? And I mean, I'm born and raised in Japan. I've lived around a little bit when I was young, a bit of France and a bit of Germany, because I like moving around. And there was one woman, one of the classes was about how are the Russians? How do you behave when you come to Russia? Right. And she said, this is a major problem very often for businesses, because the Swedes have a very specific way of being. We are like this, or we do it our way, and it's very proper. Maybe not now, but back in the day it was. So the problem they face when they go abroad is that they do their square Swedish thing there, and it doesn't work because they cannot feel into what these other people, their cultures or their traditions or whatever. And she said, we actually look within the foreign department, whatever. They look for multicultural people who've lived in different countries and lived in different cultures, and they use them as door openers. She actually called it that. Use them as door openers. You send them over with the first delegation, make sure that they keep everything in order and teach the Swedish delegates how to behave. So like in Italy, they come and they kiss you on the mouth. The Swedish dudes are like, oh my God, I'm not gay, I don't want to work here. And then that's it. Or you have dinners and it's lovely. And the Swedes go, yep, this contract is done. And it's like, no, we're just getting to know each other for days over lots of wine and food and going to the beach and having fun, you know? So this sort of comes into this, what you're talking about is how do we treat others? Because if it is another culture, you have to be aware of that culture. Luxembourg, for example, is a multicultural country, right? The business is sort of basic. It's the business, and people come from the whole world doing the business there. But all the people from all these different cultures are basically different, intrinsically different. So even if they have to fit into the same business pot, so to speak, they have to find ways of communicating with each other so there won't be discrepancies or misunderstandings because business has to run. So Luxembourg is actually a really interesting experimental place to look at from this point of view.
And that's actually one of the reasons why I get so interested right now into in cultural intelligence and diversity, and how do we actually make inclusion practical? Because diversity is easy.
Yeah.
Diversity is easy. It's inclusion and leveraging all this potential that comes with diverse viewpoints and stuff like that. That makes it interesting. I think that when you go to different countries, you have different mores and you have different traditions and what people are used to and certain do's and don'ts, right? In terms of, let's say, more or less respect for authority, more or less intimacy allowed, more of a flat hierarchy versus a very hierarchical setting, and so on. So it's very different fundamentally. Here again, though, too, is the caveat that even though that is what people of a certain nationality are used to, that does not necessarily translate to their own personal personality based preferences. They might have gotten used to, they might have aligned with themselves with the way things are being done. But, in order to really get the maximum potential out of people, I think we even need to look beyond this surface layer of what people are used to and what they have been trained to do, the being Russian part, because
Yes.
underneath we're all fundamentally different people, right?
Yes.
So culture or nationality can also be seen as something that you're just used to. And because it's also, I think, uh, suboptimal to treat every Russian like a
The
standard
Russian.
Russian, right? The standard Russian.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you can have an Asian person walking down the street in Moscow or any kind of country and find people that are exactly like themselves, more so than being like the standard person in that country,
Hmm.
right? There are deviations everywhere. So yes, we have these statistical averages of Germans are like this and Swedes are like that and Americans are like that, right? So I mean, there's these statistically different things, but people on an individual level can be very different. And I think that's why actually studies have shown that where people are from is a very poor indicator of who people really are,
Yeah.
because it can change, right? If you take a very open-minded person and take them out of a very constrictive culture and transplant them into a more open culture, uh, you know, they're going to blossom, So
Mhm.
where they're from ultimately doesn't matter. And or not as much as other things like economic status and education and maybe gender and
Gender is a big thing.
right,
Gender is a really big thing. Really big thing.
or age, right? I
Age
think
is
that
also a big thing.
those cultural groups are big indicators, and more strong indicators than necessarily where somebody is
Yeah.
from. So, just because you're introduced to somebody who's from Germany, don't assume that they are like German.
What is a German? I mean, in this day and age where people are moving so massively around the world and faster, it's a big movement, global movement. So, I mean, that Chinese dude he's not Chinese, he's whatever. And that Swedish girl is not Swedish, she's whatever. I think I'd like to bring it down to a really simple point, and it's about respect. You see, if you if you meet a person from the basis of respect, that you respect them just because they exist, they don't need to be anything, just the fact that they exist gives them the right to your respect, or my respect, right? Because I worked in Jordania for this horseback archery. I'm a judge. And Jordania, I love Jordania. It was nice, but there you have this whole gender thing and the female man age. And we were in this massive hotel, and it was really hard to get anything done because nobody would speak English and nobody knew, and it was closed doors. And I was on pleased the organizer, and I needed to get all these competitors, two competitors from 25 different countries. You can imagine how many people we were, and everything is controlled by the military, and nothing worked. They wouldn't even give me their room number so I could, find them. And finally, I thought, okay, it didn't work for anybody in the group. And then I thought, hang on a minute, I've worked restaurants, I work, so I thought there's got to be offices somewhere with the girls. So I went downstairs, and yeah, there were offices downstairs with a lot of young women, extremely well-educated women, young, female, and I asked them, they got everything done for me like this. Why? Because I treated them with respect, and they were not treated with the respect they should have been shown because they're female and they're young. But just this fact that I treated them with respect and have a sit down and we talk about their children and what's going on in their lives. So how it's been to be a young woman in Jordania, just little things, just taking this time to stop and sit with them. And they were so amazing and so lovely. And what was interesting was that suddenly the how I was met by the military and all the other stuff in the hotel changed.
Hmm.
Everywhere I went, I got so much help. Everybody could speak English. Everybody talked to me. Everybody wanted to, have a tea with me. And I mean, I hardly slept there because I was talking to all these people and being friendly and keeping all going, the colonel and everything changed. And I think this is the key. And it's not only specific that person. I think it is how you move through the world. If you move through the world and you come to a place where you know nothing about what are their traditions or how are you supposed to behave, you just silence yourself a bit, come down a bit and watch and be respectful. There's certain signs that function everywhere. This works everywhere. A bow works everywhere. A smile works everywhere. Meeting the eyes, not so much. But, and once you've shown that, you open a door and there communication starts. There you can start treating people as they want to be treated. Up to that point, the door is closed. So I really like that thing, but I think it's all based on respect. If you can't respect the person you have in front of you, you will not be able to treat that person in any proper way.
Yeah, because respect kind of includes acceptance, it includes non judgment,
Mm.
it includes openness, really, not to impose your standard on everything. It's just like they're different, not better or worse, different, and different is okay. Different is okay.
Mm.
And, you know, it it is true that having this mindset of just allowing others to be the way that they are, and trying to figure out ways of communicating is a huge first step. Of course, external pressures are always going to come in, and we cannot, fully circumvent our own cognitive biases. They're subconscious, but we can always question ourselves. If we have a gut reaction or we jump to a stereotype just because of our own experience and stuff like that. But always ask yourself, is this first reaction, not response, this first reaction an adequate one? Or did I jump to conclusions? What were the assumptions I based these decisions on? And just have a little bit more of this reflective attitude as we approach how we deal with others. And granted, it might be very difficult in short exchanges. Let's say you go to a speed dating thing or something like that, right? I mean, you might not be able to turn this around in 10 minutes, right, to assess where others come from. But just, don't take stuff too seriously in those things. Be yourself, and just accept others for who they are, and be just present. But if you again, like I said before, that manager with his team, take some effort to try to understand, and be open-minded. And especially when you're a very stressed out middle manager, it might really take some effort, right? And he or she might actually not be able to do it herself without some help from a coach or an outside perspective, because sometimes you get so, especially when you're stressed, you get so locked into your own viewpoint, because stress brings out our raw basic instincts and preconceptions, and yeah, so much of this reflective cognitive
You go,
way of dealing, goes out the window. It goes out the window, and you go back to more raw limbic brain kind of patterns and things like that. So sometimes you might then need some assistance from the outside to have you reassess and find that spot where you can even take the blinders back off, and step outside, and reduce the blind spots a little bit. And so there's help out there, right? And the more I deal with cultural intelligence, which includes or is essentially also based on understanding, on ways and methods of understanding other culture groups and other people, and expanding our own self in order to understand others better, because it's an internal thing. It's I need to change in order to understand others, and include them, and being able to interact. It's not a free for all. So, would you agree then, when we come to the conclusion that pushing our own attitudes and values and beliefs and expectations onto others might be kind of a counterproductive way of engaging with other people?
yeah, definitely that. I think I just like to put a little thing in there. You said we have all our different programmings and stuff and judgmental things going on. That's sort of come into us over the years, right? But I think even in speed dating or whatever, even if we at the moment when we realize that, hang on a minute, there's something, I'm having a gut reaction or whatever, we can always take it home and work it through on our own at home, or with a friend or with a coach or whatever. This is always good and important to bring in people from outside, because our perception is just like that. We need others as well to enhance the picture, but we can still say, okay, I had a reaction there. There was a trigger. Why?
Right.
Why was I triggered? And then we can take it home and work with it. And the next time it won't be there. So just because it's short and we can't do anything about it right at that moment, we can still bring it home and work with it and release it and turn it into something better.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Isn't
I'm
that
all with you
beautiful?
there. Because it's it's also something that evolves. I think that just the more you do it, the more you open things. It's like certain things after you've seen them, you cannot unsee them,
Yeah, true.
right? And so getting more understanding and getting more of this yeah, cultural flexibility, really that's what it is, and expanding that particular horizon and having more lenses through which to view interactions and things like that. It will stay with you, it will evolve, it will stay with you, and every other engagement that you have with people, every other interaction is going to be that much richer for it,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
it does get easier. So it's a skill. I think that with some good hard elbow grease and just mental reflecting and things like that, it is something that can be learned.
Willingness, willingness.
Yes,
There
yeah,
has to be willingness. We have to be
exactly.
willing to learn, to change, to grow, to evolve.
Yeah, yeah. So let's not assume. Also, let's not assume every German is German. uh, and uh, and let's look out for just the wonderful diversity that's out there of people, because we're all the richer for it. That people are indeed different than us, because imagine they would all be just like us. It would be a dull world indeed. Oh my
Oh, it
God.
would be so, if everybody was like me, this would be the most chaotic world ever. Fast and furious. Maybe.
Imagine a world populated with Claudias and Annas. That would just be, oh my God, that would be a bit too much, too much.
Now, that would be too much, definitely. If it was just me, I can trust me. It would be a runaway freight train with no stopping. That's for sure.
So, do you think this might be a good place to stop? Do you want to
Yes,
add something more?
I'm good. I'm
Okay.
all good.
Okay, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed this friendly banter between Anna Dannfeld, awareness coach. I actually forgot to introduce us in the beginning, and myself, Claudia Cimenti, founder of Top Coach Luxembourg in Luxembourg. So, if you like this content, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss any further content. And we will see you very soon, I hope again. Take care. Bye bye.